I'm Trevor Williams with Global Atlanta. We're here with Jim Beach, who's one of the authors of School for Startups, which is published by McGraw-Hill. Jim, thanks for being with us.
Thank you very much for having me.
The subject of the book is entrepreneurship on a broad level. Tell me why you decided to write this book, and especially right now at this moment.
Well, the thesis of the book really speaks to why we decided to write the book. The thesis is that entrepreneurship has nothing to do with creativity and nothing to do with risk. And if you remove those two stumbling blocks from the average person's fear, and you remove those stumbling blocks, they're much more likely to actually start a business. And so we've tried to write a very motivational book that also includes all of the steps that you would need to take to start a business to show you that it's not that hard, and if you get over just some of your basic fears, that you can actually do this.
So who's the book targeted to?
I think the main target audience would be the 40-year-old business person that's afraid of getting outsourced. You know, data suggests that 72% of Americans secretly wish that they could be an entrepreneur, and only about 8 or 9% of Americans actually are. That means we have 60-something% of the population out there secretly wishing that they were an entrepreneur. And also they're in very dangerous type jobs. You know, they might work for a Fortune 100 company, be a middle-level manager making $100,000, but those are the type of people that are getting outsourced, outplaced, downsized, right-sized, all of the bad things that can happen. And so those employees, those 40-year-old middle-level managers, need to diversify their risk. The same way they diversify their investment portfolio, they need to diversify their income portfolio. What we're suggesting in the book is that you start a small business on the side. Doesn't have to be big and sexy and exciting at first, but maybe in the first year, if you can make $10,000 by working at night on a side business, that becomes pretty sexy pretty quickly. You know, in year 2, you might make $20,000. Year 3, you might make $40,000. And again, you still have your day job, you still have your insurance, you're still making your mortgage payments, but you've reduced your dependence on that one corporate job by having some other stream of income.
So in other words, you've kind of turned the idea that entrepreneurship is risky on its head and saying it's actually helps you become safer.
That's right. We believe that entrepreneurship is less risky than being a corporate employee today. You know, take the example of just a low-tech landscaper or somebody like that. A landscaper might have 100 clients. For him to go completely out of business, he'd have to upset 100 clients and lose 100 accounts. Whereas you working for Coca-Cola or UPS or Home Depot or something like that, you could upset one person and lose everything. Or you could simply have a right sizing. We're announcing layoffs of 100,000 or 1,000 employees just to reduce expenses. And because of that, you've done absolutely nothing wrong. You're still a good worker, but all of a sudden you're unemployed. And so the point of the book is let's develop multiple revenue streams, each one giving you a little more security and a little more safety. And hopefully 4 or 5 years from now, our dream is that your boss finally figures out what you're doing and fires you. But at that point, the business is doing so well that you're able to seamlessly, with absolutely no risk, make that transition.
So riskiness is one, but what are some of the other misconceptions about entrepreneurship that you've addressed in the book?
Well, the other biggest is, of course, creativity. We say that people are waiting around for God to strike them with some sort of creativity lightning bolt. And it just doesn't happen. You know, some people are very creative, and we call them artists. You know, most business people are not that creative. And so if I'm not going to start a business because I don't have an idea, we would suggest to that person, well, let's go out there and steal an idea, for lack of a better word, borrow an idea. Go on Google and type in top 100 business ideas. There's hundreds of web pages out there that do nothing but list ideas for you to borrow. I don't think entrepreneurship is about having a new idea. I think it's about the execution of an idea. Entrepreneurs are the people that execute the idea well. So go on Entrepreneur Magazine or Startup Magazine, find something that's working in California or someone successful with a company or a product in Louisiana, bring that here to Atlanta. Do that in Atlanta. You don't have to have a new idea. The Global Entrepreneurship Monitor, which is published by Babson University, says that 93% of new businesses around the entire world are copies of other people's businesses. If I'm a consumer and I come to you and I satisfy you and I provide you with a good service and you're happy and you feel like you paid a fair price, do you care where I got my idea from? No, all you care about is that I executed and delivered the way I said I was going to.
So where do your current capabilities as an employee, I mean, in other words, can you do something that you have no experience in?
Sure. I think that it would be probably easier to do something within your field, something that you have some expertise in, but there are hundreds of examples of people starting businesses in fields that they know nothing about, and if they reduce the risk enough, they're very, very safe. So let me give you a couple of examples. I'm a man. I think every man in the world secretly wants to own a bar, to have their own bar, their own table at a restaurant, something like that. Well, one of the people that we wrote about in the book, and there's about a dozen case studies in the book that show how these examples or these principles have actually worked in the real world. This man, his name is Joey Tatum, decided he wanted to start a bar, and he saved up some money and he found a spot in Athens, Georgia to start a bar, and he spent $5,000 to start a bar. A year later, someone across the street spent like $3 million and built one of the microbreweries with all of the pipes and the brass things and all of that pretty stuff. How many cases of beer, how many kegs of beer, how many of those huge vats did they have to sell before they paid off the $3 million investment? Versus Joey on the other side of the street, who had a $5,000 bar, has concrete floor, all of the furniture came out of a flea market, there's absolutely no decorations, it's an ugly bar, but it's been there for 15 years, it's incredibly successful. He had very, very little risk, so he's more likely to do it and much more likely to succeed. The microbrewery's come and gone 3 times now, and he's been there for 15 years. And now he owns, I think, about 10 other type places in Athens, too. He owns the ATM in downtown Athens. He owns a parking lot next door to the stadium, things like that. Multiple income streams, all started with very, very little risk.